to Maybe in the City, a podcast exploring music through the boroughs of America. Today we have, as always, with me, Shawn and Dan. Boys, how we doing?
Hello.
Good.
Yeah.
Good to be with you guys. Today's a little different.
Yeah.
We are a little, I guess, delving back into Shawn's past a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can be a little less hesitant. A little more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, God, dude.
Okay.
That's all right. Shawn doesn't remember it anyway. So
Well,
Who am I? Where am I? And who are you guys?
Hey.
You're driving me nuts.
Something a little different, and this might be not a theme necessarily, but as we have got going on this podcast, we've spent a lot of time exploring the underground and alternative world in Dayton, Ohio. We're all from Dayton, and so it made sense as a starting point for us. Today, we're going to veer a little off path, and Shawn, do you want to introduce your friend on the other end?
Yeah. So this is a different take on music. And we've been interviewing a lot of musicians, promoters, radio hosts on this podcast, and this is going to get a different perspective of the music scene. And please welcome Scott Cannon, a friend of mine. We met, I was thinking about this, Scott, probably 30 years ago, I would say.
Was it that long? Yeah, about
Probably
that.
early 94, 93.
Yeah, maybe as early as that. I definitely think 95.
Yeah.
For sure, but something like that. Yeah,
And
30 years,
so-
that's crazy.
It is. It's nuts. Man, we're
Yeah.
old. And he's a audio engineer.
We're trying to get the
We're
name
trying to get the name
here,
straight
man.
because we're talking to Scott
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
He's a front of house sound, which you could also say. But what's cool is Scott does this for a living. And so this is how he makes money. He goes on tours, which I'm sure we'll get into. He just got off a tour, which I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about that. But this is how he makes a living, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Which to me says, and I know this about him, that he's really good at his job. And so we're really glad to have you on, Scott, today. And thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is
Yeah.
great.
do you
It's good
guys
to
want
see
to
you.
talk about how you met?
Yeah, let's do that first. We
Really?
always go into
Yeah.
the whole,
Okay.
I mean, because that's far enough ago that it's we can ask follow-up questions about the early life stuff. But yeah,
30 years ago, I was still in diapers.
Wow. You should have been.
I shouldn't have been.
when did that change?
That's after the surgery.
Oh,
Wow. That's another show.
okay.
So, Scott, do you remember when we first met?
It's a little blurry as far as like first time, maybe we met briefly at one point or another at, some show or some festival. But I do remember specifically because I was running sound. I was working at a venue that a few of us tried to put together and get started, which actually became a thing. It was kind of a DIY underground warehouse vibe in Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh wow.
And once we started, there was like 10 or 12 of us, and we each kind of had a role. And I first couple shows tried to find the opening acts, the local bands that I knew that could open up, and would organize the sound and lights. And the one company that I kind of worked with, we would hire them. Not every show, but when I could, I would try to mix or at least get work that show. And I don't remember which one it was. It might have been you guys, Morella Forest and Luxury. I think I was running sound for that one. I know that's the first time we definitely interacted and met. That would have been probably 95.
Okay.
94, 95. Probably 95.
Yeah. The place was called The Warehouse, wasn't it?
Yeah, Crush Warehouse.
Crush Warehouse, that's right.
Yeah.
And it was
Birmingham,
a
Alabama.
cool, yeah, Birmingham. It was a cool venue because you guys packed it out. I mean,
Yeah.
There was hundreds of kids at shows.
Yeah.
Was this an all ages venue?
It was, yeah. It was kind of like a, oh, how do I put it? Just there was enough people involved from all parts of the city that kind of like, brought, got all their friends. We were strategic in getting local bands from every end of the town, every side of the city to, try to bring crowds. And our first show, we were like, we're going to call Sellout 500 because there wasn't fire code. It was a huge warehouse. We kind of did it under the radar and sold cheap tickets. If you brought, get a discount if you brought cans of food for the homeless shelter or whatever. So it was very DIY kind of, that punk rock spirit. And kids from all the different church youth groups and stuff. And we were surprised. I mean, we had more than 500 people that first show. It was like Mortal and all the local bands. And shortly thereafter, all the Tooth Nail bands and everything. The guy that ran it, Derek, he just really he was good at the business side of it, had making the connections and booking the bands and everything. I think the way we started it was, what's the deposit for the band? And we all chipped in for like $15 each to make the $150 or $500 deposit or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Just so that would be covered. We're like, yeah, it's like a ticket to a show. If we don't, if we don't get anyone here, then we're not out, and we just, that's it. But then it worked. But shortly, a few months after that summer, it kept going. I went to school, and then when I would come home, I would still work there when I could. But yeah, that's basically, I think that's when we met.
Yeah. Did you, weren't you in school to be a sound engineer?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did go straight out of high school. I went down to Florida to a place called Full Sail, Center for the Recording Arts.
Yeah.
I went there. It was 94 or 95. And anyway, I had kind of had the background in the live audio in town, working with local bands, working, at school, like trying to learn at school, doing whatever I could, church, everything. And this audio engineer who had toured in the 70s and 80s, and he had this massive sound system that he put in this church. He basically gave it to the church with the thing that, hey, I want to run it. He's like this old grizzly, touring sound guy. And he kind of took me under his wing and taught me a lot. So I knew I liked doing the live thing. I did have ambitions to travel and do it. I, started thinking, I wonder if there's a school, somewhere I could actually do this, learn, and to do this. But also, I was definitely wanting to do more studio work at the time, which I did for a while. I worked in several studios, and but I was trying to like balance the live thing, juggle it, and the live one out just because I was able to start traveling, and it was actually with Shawn with Morella's Forest. That was the longest tour I had done the first time. Prior to that, it had just been like a week here or there, or like just the Southeast, not nationally, and not for over a few weeks. So that was what was that, like 2 months or something the first time we did, first tour we did?
Yeah, I remember. I was trying to think back of the time, like no one could get our sound right because Sid sings soft, Nate pounds like a maniac, right?
Yeah.
And we would play in Birmingham, and Scott would get our sound right. We're like, we sound amazing. And so after going through this way longer than we should have, we're like, why don't we get a hold of Scott and see if he'll go on tour with us, and we'll just pay him. We didn't pay a lot, but then he said, yes, I'll do it. And so then we were guaranteed to have good sound. And he not only was a sound man, I remember you putting like really crazy delay at the end of songs, we'd go to a noise thing, and you'd have this crazy sound of delay going from the mics. And it was just like you were an extra member of the band. And so you really thought about it from an artistic point of view, just not great sound, which is super important, obviously.
Yeah.
So how did you, I know you said you're in the church and everything, but what made you decide you wanted to get into audio engineering?
I think ultimately the short answer is it was interesting to me, like, and kind of like being shown that I was, well, I was always very into music, and I just, as 10, 12, 13-year-old, just diving headfirst into music. But I didn't start, like, I didn't have a creative outlet because I didn't really play an instrument. I did eventually do some, experimental type music of my own, but I kind of also liked the behind the scenes aspect. It was kind of fascinating to me. So I just got interested in that way and didn't really think of it as like a career or anything to start. But the more I did, around town locally, like I said, at the church, and the sound guy that took me under his wing, and a music director at that church who I guess saw my interest and fascination and kind of like really encouraged that.
Dude, he saw free labor. He saw free labor. That's what he saw.
This is true.
Will's a pastor, so
right. Yeah, this is true. I mean, there's definitely that element, but they just really encouraged me and gave me kind of free reign to experiment, to learn. I'd come up with crazy ideas, and they're like, "Yeah, let's try it."
That's awesome.
And that was nice. That was good. They didn't like shoo me away like, you're a crazy kid. But and they did a lot of drama type stuff. They had a big Christmas production every year and everything, and that was always fun. So yeah, like I said a little while ago, doing that stuff did make me interested to know, like, if there was potential in like going to school for that or career. And it's interesting because my high school, like in high school, like the counselors, the teachers, they're really kind of pushing me towards, you have the potential to get a full scholarship somewhere. Like, what, you're going to throw it all away for that and everything. But I was like, no, I know what I want to do. I want to do this, at least for now. I'm going to try to do this.
I think that's such a hard thing at that age to know what you want to do.
Yeah. And it was an interesting experience because, I had a passion for it, and I followed that. And there were a lot of people that were like, I don't know, like that could be a hobby, that kind of thing. I think I coupled that with, just really at the same time getting just fascinated by like, just production in general, like record producing, engineering specifically. I think just discovering, everything, like going back in time and just like, oh wow, okay, well, I love this. Who influenced this? What's this? Oh, what did the Beatles? What is this? Like, how did they accomplish what they accomplished? And that just really fascinated me as well. So that's why once I found the opportunity to go to the school, I was like, well, I thought that I would be in the studios for the rest of my life. But I was also open to the live thing too, if you know what I mean. Yeah. I think because I found a creative outlet doing live sound, it's a lot of it's hard work, long days, but the payoff is the show. And I have been fortunate enough to work with a lot of very creative people who, like Shawn, like you guys, gave me kind of liberty to like experiment with you, or like, not everything calls for it. Not everyone wants that aspect, but when you can be a part of a team who's creating, the artist's vision. And like, hey, what do you think about this? And then, we implement it, and it's amazing. And then, it's probably, I've never been in a band, but I would imagine it's the feeling of when everything's clicking with the band, and, everyone's together on something, and the outcome is, that's what it's all about, right? Yeah. Whether you're in the studio, on the stage, behind the scenes. It's everyone's working hard to accomplish this very, tangible thing. And I say tangible thing, the live sound comes, it's gone. I mean, now it's on YouTube, but there's a lot, I wish I could see like videos from back then, but still it's satisfying, definitely. It pays off. I guess what I'm trying to say.
Was there a moment, when you started running live sound, right? You're past going to school and all that, you're actually doing the work, traveling, touring. Was there a moment when you thought, I can do this? I can make a living at this. This is what I'm, my passion. Was there this click?
Yeah, it's interesting. My first thought was, yes, there was a moment. Prior to that, there was a moment of like, this is never going to happen. I had a couple different things lined up that canceled. Either the one band broke up right before the tour, or the one, different things happened around 2000, 99, 2000, end of 99 into 2000. I had one tour in, that band kind of fizzled out. The next tour I had lined up, that band broke up right before, so it was like, well, I guess I got to get a real job and pay the bills. I was living in Nashville trying to like do work locally, and that was difficult. Trying to work. And I just decided I'm going to set aside, 6 months and just drill down, just pay off student loan, pay off everything if I can. Which was really good because when an opportunity came up, I was able to like just go, Yeah. And when that became full time, started panning out long term, I spent about 3.5 years with my stuff in storage,
Wow.
And then that band I was with for 10.5 years. But that just happened. That was Relient K.
Yeah, I thought you were.
Which,
with them for 10 years.
Yeah, from October 2000 to May of 2011. Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a good run, and it was right at the beginning for them, and just we started in the van, and then it wasn't the Morella's Forest Band, which I have stories about that, or I should say memories of that. Yeah, that one specifically. Driving halfway across the country, wondering why we smell gas.
They drilled into the gas tank.
Yeah.
I think it's bad.
But I think, all those experiences, helped, it's like you start off and you're just willing to learn and grow. And over time, it just prepared me for, even though a lot of it was sink or swim, there was a lot of like, things are getting big all of a sudden. I think that to answer the question, I think there was a few moments, but bigger festivals, bigger shows, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do this. I got this. I think we were on the bus early on with Relient K. It was the first time they were on a bus, and we were watching like a live stream. Well, it wouldn't have been a live stream back then. It was on some satellite channel. And it was Weezer at the Electric Factory in Philly, which is about a 2,500, 3,000 cap venue. Sold out, But I was watching it thinking, I could do this. There's nothing they're doing that we can't do, Yeah. And like 6 months later, we were on that stage sold out doing the same thing. So I was like, yeah, I can do this,
That's amazing.
And it was kind of a realization. Now with Relient K, I started as tour manager and basically everything. It was the band and me.
Okay.
I wasn't doing merchandise, but it was just the four of them and myself. So I was kind of doing everything.
Plus running sound.
Yeah. So I was tour managed, advancing everything, production. So you'll have a tour manager and a production manager usually. A lot of times those are doubled up. Like if you have front of house might be the tour manager, a monitor engineer might be a production manager as well, or lighting will be production, So if you have like a small crew, everyone kind of wears multiple hats sometimes on those things. And as the tour grows or the things grow, you hire more people, and hopefully you're not doing more than one job. But to start with them, like for the first 4 or 5 years, I was doing all that, and eventually we started like hiring more people, and to where I wasn't having to do as much. I was tour manager, front of house, and then I dropped the tour managing, started just doing the production side. But then the next long-term band I started with, I did first year, 2 years with them, a band called MUTEMATH, and I was tour manager, front of house. And then eventually was able to just front of house production manager.
How did you get that gig?
That one was, it was shortly after I was ending with Relient K. It's always kind of random. I had put a few feelers out there, and when I did that, this guy called me and was like, "Hey, I got some shows I need to fill in with Jars of Clay this summer." I was like, "Okay." So I did that, and then while I was out there on some of the festivals, I ran into some other friends and colleagues that I'd had, and I was just letting them know, like, "Hey, that was the hardest part. I had been with Relient K so long, everyone just assumed, like, yeah, he's never available, so they just wouldn't think of me or reach out." So that's kind of always the challenge for me, is trying to find, line up work and let people know I'm available.
That was going to be my question: is how do you promote yourself? How do you get it out?
Yeah, I'm not the best at that. I typically don't try to. In the past, I've kind of like have a select few people, that I'm really, closer to or reach out to. There are networks that, I'm a part of that blast out when people need something, or sometimes it's just random, like, production manager or somebody or a manager will call and say, "Hey, we need someone for this. We think you'd be a good fit. Are you available?" And talk that through. Sometimes it's just referrals. But yeah, the hardest part is just remembering to kind of let people know, "Hey, I'm going to be available," And I'm kind of at that point right now. I need to start doing that for next year. I've kind of haven't lined anything up for the next year. Hoping to get something more long term again. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's the most challenging thing. The MUTEMATH thing, I think when I was out that summer, I had run into some people and I let them know I'm available. And within 2 weeks, the one, it was like 3 people I had talked to. And one of them came back 2 weeks later, like, "Hey, kind of an emergency situation, like, but not emergency, but the guy who has been with MUTEMATH, they had been down for a year working on a new record, and he also did the Moody Blues, so he was kind of double booked." So he was like, they were like, "Hey, their management's looking for someone, and their guy's double booked. He can't do the rest of the year. Do you want to jump in?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And I had known those guys, but so it was kind of random that it didn't come through them or from them. It was someone else, and so I talked to their manager. What's that?
You knew the guys in the band.
Yeah, I knew a couple of the guys.
Okay.
I knew the drummer, Darren, quite well. We had been friends for a while, but, he was touring. We were crossing paths every so often, but, hadn't talked. At that point, we hadn't talked in a year or so, 2 years. And when I did get the job, we met. We were meeting in L.A. I get to baggage claim, and he was like, "Oh, what are you doing? Who are you out with? What are you doing here?" I'm like, "You," So, and that was really funny. But that one was a formal interview, which up to that point I never had to do. So their management was like, "Come to Nashville, sit down with me. We'll talk. We need someone for all of the fall, starting in September." tour manage front of house. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. And so, when they said interview, I thought over the phone or, video or something. And he was like, no, I want to do it in person. I was like, ooh, I don't know, because I live in Pennsylvania. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. And it was interesting because, he said, well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Like, I was like, okay, I used some points, got a flight, Southwest flight, came down, sat down with him, had lunch, and then something came up. He was really preoccupied, still kind of asking me very leading questions, but he was like, obviously something's coming up, something's going on. And he was like, I got to deal with something where there's a situation. Can we, meet back up at the coffee shop in like 2 hours? I was like, sure. And then so we get back to the coffee shop, and he's like, so we have a situation where our monitor engineer, he's epileptic. They thought they had solved it. He hadn't had an episode in like 2 years, but he just had a couple seizures. The doctor says he can't fly. Can you do monitors? And I was like, yes. He's like, do you have a passport? And I was like, yeah. He's like, can you fly to Japan on Monday? And this was Thursday night. And it actually worked out because I got a last minute weekend with Jars of Clay that weekend. So I was like, well, I'll get back at 2 on Sunday. I can fly to LA. Sure. And so it was just like that. So I did 3 weeks doing monitors, which actually really, that's all I had to do. And I was able to kind of like learn what they liked, learn the music, watch, kind of shadow even the guy that I was going to be replacing, not ultimately replacing. I don't like to say the word replacing, but filling in for to start. It just worked out where I kept going. He didn't come back. And he was with Moody Blues. So, so it worked out for everybody, I think, I hope. So that was 3 weeks and then a week off. And then I started with them, and that was another 7.5 year run until the band dissolved. And it wasn't 100% the whole time. It was they would, if they're working on a new record, I'd go do another tour with someone else, fill in my schedule when I could. But yeah, so that was kind of a crazy thing, the way that happened. And that was yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say that it was fun. It was just everything happened organically, and that's kind of been the story with, my career, I guess, in a way.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wow. I mean, that's killer. You're not out there like, have an agent or something. I don't know.
No, but I've thought about it quite often. Like,
yeah,
it would be nice. I'd gladly, give 10% or whatever, 15, like get me work and help me manage this a little bit. And then I could just focus on the work, but that's the dream, I guess.
How long does it take you, or I'm sure it's a case by case basis, but to feel comfortable with a band, and obviously they have ideas of what they want it to sound like,
yes.
But reality of what you can do. I mean, how long does it take to get that rapport with a band usually?
That's a good question. I think there's, sometimes it's rather fast. Other times it takes a while. It's just like different personalities, how you work with. Sometimes you hit it off with someone, just in general in life, like really easy, real quick, kind of on the same wavelength and have some of the same ideas and hit it off. And then other times it's a little more challenging. I think sometimes it depends on, what happened or who came before you,
right.
Whether they're as, trusting with someone coming in that's new. I generally, I guess I don't think about it in terms of how long does it take. It takes as long as it needs to. And in a way, I view it as more, it's ever evolving. You're growing in a relationship. So you got to work on that relationship, communicate. And I try to, listen as much as I can. I mean, obviously, right. Listen. But, I want to come into a situation kind of trying to understand to begin with, what do the records sound like? What's the vibe? I might have questions like, well, it's this way. It's very in your face on the record. Like, how do you want it live? Do you want it massive? Do you want it like really contained and up front? Things like that. But it's on two levels, not just on the technical side. It's I think if obviously if you can build trust and on a personal level, but also on a technical level, like maybe they know, well, yeah, what you're doing technically, but you got to establish that rapport and that trust with someone, and that can take a while sometimes. But I think the people that are like really focused and they know what they want, they're going to know pretty quick whether or not you're going to gel with that, and sometimes it's, I don't know what it is, that I do other than being very receptive, listening, asking questions, trying to, it's like, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm trying to make it my way or force it, because I'm in ultimately a service position, like a service provider. So, I want to learn those things. And I guess along the way, you kind of learn how to pick up on what people in general need, but individually, like what they need, what they like. So sometimes you're a step ahead, before they even ask. Like you've already provided, you've already done it. Just because you're, paying attention. That's when in doubt, that's the fallback. It's like, stop, listen, talk, ask, communicate, ask questions, and if I don't know, like not letting that get in the way. Like, look, I'm not sure, I actually expressing that, that I don't know. I guess I don't know what you're looking for here. Let's talk about this. Let's try to figure it out. The other thing being, as straightforward as possible. Like, I'm a firm believer in not, what's the word? If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an honest answer. I might not be rude about it, but I'm going to tell you, if someone's like, hey, how's this guitar sound? What do you think about this tone? I'm going to be gentle about it, but if it's not working, I'm going to explain why. I'm not going to be like, oh, it sounds terrible. I'm going to be like, well, I like it in some context, but in this context, I don't think it's working. It's kind of like getting in the way of this or whatever. And being very straightforward in that way. And I think that helps to build that trust and rapport because, they know you're not, when someone knows you're not just a yes person or like, I mean, sometimes people want that, but just knowing, when to be on it. I mean, when to be blunt, I guess. But always, it's more about honesty. It's like just you ask me a straightforward question, I'm going to give you a straightforward answer. I'm gonna be honest about it. Maybe be gentle, but if something's not right and you say it's great, that's not in good service for the person on the stage because they're going to think that it's great, and then they're going to get they're going to get reviews, and but it's like help me help you, help me help I'll help you help me, that kind of thing. So it's definitely it's a teamwork thing. It's and I guess I'm rambling because I guess it's not the how long does it take more than it's just an ongoing, you have to put work into those relationships. And sometimes it's really hard when everyone's tired and, you're working through it and everything, but if you build a good foundation, you're good.
Yeah. Well, that's, I think people can take that honesty if you have reasoning to back it up. If you just tell them,
exactly.
if you just tell them it's crap and walk away, then what's this guy's problem?
Right. Well, then you're the grumpy sound guy,
Right.
the grumpy old sound guy that's just like, no, it's crap. Like, get out of my face. What are you asking me for? Like, yeah, no, I'll back it up with like, here's my opinion, and if you don't like that opinion, I'm sorry, but here's where I'm at, what I'm thinking, and we can work towards a solution that works for you, works for, and if you tell me, well, no, I want to do it my way, then yeah, well, I'll work with that and try to make that work too, But I think, yeah.
Sorry.
What's that?
Have you ever gotten to a situation where you went in and you're just like, yeah, this isn't going to work? We're just too much clashing, or do you always try to figure it out?
I think I've been really fortunate to work with a lot of good artists and bands that I haven't had a lot of clashing. I think sometimes it's on the crew side. It might just not be working out, and it's always different because it's like, if you're working together, but you're coworkers, you're not the boss, so it's a different dynamic that you got to try to figure out, and work through that. So sometimes there's clash on like different crew people. Generally, if someone comes in and they're acting a certain way, it's not fitting, gelling, it just usually doesn't pan out, and they go on to the next thing.
Gotcha.
As far as for me coming into things and it not working, I guess I've never had anything like really bad where it's like, no, this isn't, I gotta go, but I have had situations where over time it's just like, well, maybe it makes sense to part, I'll go my way, you go yours, that kind of thing. And for me though, realizing that is the hard part, or knowing when to move on, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I'm very much, and I'm gonna work towards, being professional, but fixing whatever, in this line of work, it's always like troubleshoot and fix, it's like, let's fix this. We keep moving on. We got to keep going. The show must happen, So, even there's sometimes where, relationship or situationally or whatever, things are changing. It's not necessarily maybe a good space for me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
To realize that is, slow down and be like, oh, you know what? I'm trying to fix something that isn't fixable, or it's not, it's not healthy for me. I need to move on, and I guess that's something I've been learning over the years, is just when to know, when to realize that. Yeah, because, sometimes it's not working out for whatever reason. There might be someone trying to take advantage, or or you're just not on the same wavelength, anymore, or never were, and you just tried to make it work, and yeah, and then that's not really in good service for anyone if you're not making it work, if it's not, yeah. So
I have a question, and you've played pretty much all over. I mean, you've run front of house all over the world, right? I mean,
mm-hmm. Yes,
yeah, and you.
I'm not everywhere yet, but a lot of
places.
Yeah,
and you've done the big festivals, Coachella, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right? With Sophie, was it Sophie Tucker?
Yeah.
You did a lot of those real big festivals.
Yeah. In MUTEMATH too. Even Relient K back in the day. I mean, those were like the three big ones as far as large venues, the big festivals, internationally, that sort of thing.
Yeah. How is it like? I always wondered this, because you see these huge crowds, right? The board's like a million miles away from the stage. It seems
Right.
like it.
Yeah.
And you're coming in cold, possibly. I don't know if you do a sound check or not
Yeah.
with that many bands. Like,
Sometimes.
and they have all that equipment that you may not even be familiar with. How is that to come in like that to run sound? Do you get to do sound checks like Coachella and things?
Depends. Sometimes. And for a lot of times there's a lot of politics involved in that too. Like, sometimes I think managers, agents will work in a sound check time. Maybe take a little less of a guarantee just to try to give like a sound check if the band really, really, really wants it and really feels like they need it. In some ways, it's gotten easier. I shouldn't say easier. It's more efficient maybe to come in without a sound check if you're fortunate to be carrying, consoles at least. And
A whole console?
so, yeah.
Like bringing in your own console.
Yes, or hiring one that's the tour you're touring with. You might have a certain console. You advance it. You're flying in. You have that console. You load all your stuff up. You have everything you need. You advance it, and if the band has the budget and they pay for it, then that's for consistency.
Wow, I didn't know bands did that.
Yeah. So, like for instance, like Coachella. Most bands, at least on all the bigger stages, the main stages, they'll come through. They'll have their own, package. Will basically control package, which consist of front of house console and monitor console, all the cabling and mics and everything you need to get to talk in between, and then any outboard gear, and you'll ship that in. Freight it. You might have 2 sets that might be going to another festival or that's still on the tour, and this is a big enough festival that you're going to want to do this. And whether you have a sound check or not, you have everything mostly the same. If you're not carrying or you're not shipping stuff in, then you find out as soon as you can what equipment they're going to have, and then either work on it's mostly all digital now, so you can work on a show file that you might have already had for that console, for that band, and tweak it for anything that's new, the new changes that's made, like at least have a starting point. And then depending on the festival, you might have an hour in between if the stages are alternating. That's like best case scenario if you're not headlining, because then you have an hour where at least you can do a full line check. You can make sure everything's working. You can listen. The band can check and hear their ears, their mixes, and you can't hear through the system, but you can at least through your headphones get a good idea of at least how you're going to start. And then it's throw and go from there. But it can be really challenging. I think it's the fundamentals and the basics are the same, like signal flow, gain structure, all that's from desk to desk, console to console, gear to gear. It's all the same, but it's more intricate now than ever because you can do so much. You can have every plug-in in the world, every piece of gear technically, basically. You can overcomplicate it real easy, but keeping it simple, keeping it to start if you're in that situation, throw and go. But you can do a lot now where you can program a lot in advance, have it ready to go, test it right before you start. But ultimately, the basics are the same. If it's a desk I don't know, if I know I'm going to come in, I'm going to try to go somewhere that has one, use the offline software, try to learn something about it beforehand. But the fundamentals are the same. It's just the navigating through. It's if you're only on a Windows computer and you switch to Mac, you're like, well, I don't know how to do anything here. But it's still a computer. It's still copy paste. It's still typing. So it's you just have to do the legwork, and then if the system techs are good, which is a whole, other thing, then, if your mix is halfway decent, it should translate. And then they're going to be making sure it's covering everything. You were saying about being so far back, that can be a challenge sometimes, because how do you get from the stage to there in time? That takes up a lot of time sometimes. But you might be 150 feet, maybe more away from the stage, and then there's going to be like a lot of delay speakers stacks behind you. They're all timed. It could be multiple. So if you see Coachella, you see all the towers everywhere, and they just they cover it really well. So that falls on the system techs, which are basically like the people who are, IT professionals. Basically, it's like it's a thing. Like where I consider myself more of a mix engineer, a more creative brained. I can do the technical things, but I can't tell you like the model of a piece of gear necessarily. I just know what I can do and what I like, and but the system engineers, they're the ones that they do their own magic, and when you find a good one that you can work with, and you're only as good as the system engineer in some days, if they know what they're doing. So like on the bigger tours where they're carrying, everything, the people that are setting up everything and making it, if you're working with them day in, day out, they're going to learn what you want, what you need, how you like it. They're going to help you achieve, so once again, everyone's helping each other succeed, Yeah.
Well,
So this is fascinating to me, just thinking about the setup and logistics around a tour, especially if you have multiple festivals. So what I'm hearing, if I hear you right, what you're saying is, like, if you have two big festivals, you could very easily get a board and send a board to each festival so that it's the same model and it's just there waiting for you.
Yes. Yeah, you can do that.
That's crazy. I never knew bands did this. Number one, about that size.
I mean, it's the band doing 500. All the club, like a club tour, doing van tour, isn't necessarily going to do that. Although technology has shrunk, and it's cheaper. You can get for $2,500, $5,000, you can get like a really nice system to carry and have that consistency at least. Yeah. But then once you get to the festivals, then it's like, you might not be able to use that because you don't have the cable runs, the connections that. I had a friend who was with a band that had all their own gear, and it was all fine until they got to the festivals because they couldn't they couldn't run. It was all like Cat 5 or Cat 6 to from stage to front of house, and it couldn't, if it was over 100 meters long, the cable, it was unusable. And so,
signal just doesn't carry that far, kind of thing.
Yeah, or this one in particular had a problem with static buildup in the Cat 5, and it would pop. And you can get a extender the powered extender that can help to eliminate that, but they didn't have that. And I happened to be on the stage, another stage at the festival, and I had a cable that would work for him. But all the other festivals, he couldn't use that console at front of house, so he had to just use what was there. And when you're using the house console, the biggest, like I said before, is just finding out what it is. If it's not analog, seeing if what it is, and then kind of build a start file that you can work with, and send it in even to the company that's providing the system techs can put it on, make sure it's all working, that it translates, and so it's pretty much ready for you when you get there. And going to be close. And then you just get your gain structure and you tweak it as you go. Because it's not going to be perfect, of course, but it's going to be in the ballpark. all the stuff that takes forever, at least will be done. All the housekeeping, and then you get it to the point where it's like, okay, now I can throw and go. Like if you jump on an analog desk, it's all right in front of you, and you can just
That was what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Are you running into anybody using analog boards at
Yeah.
this point? Really?
Yeah, there still are.
As a choice,
not-
or just because that's what they have?
both.
Both. Yeah.
At the festivals, it's almost always going to be all digital, unless
Sure,
like a headliner's carrying an analog. Like like Green Day, they have a custom desk, that analog desk, all Neve. They carry it everywhere. They send it everywhere. But they can. They have the budget.
Yes, they can. Yeah.
And they also don't have.
Did you know this little fact?
Yeah,
Scott?
this is interesting.
Green Day played Dayton, Ohio at least 5 times before signing their major deal. And
Oh, yeah?
We've had the promoter on who brought all these bands to Dayton.
Oh, very cool. Nice.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And they were driving a school bus,
I don't
an
know
old
that,
little
yeah.
school bus. They didn't even have a tour van.
Oh wow, that sounds right.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
And they signed,
Yeah.
and that's all she wrote.
And now they
That's
carry
amazing.
a huge analog board around with
Right.
them that's custom made. It's wonderful.
I have
Yeah,
a question.
yeah.
So when you go overseas, go over to Europe,
Yeah.
is everything pretty much the same, or do they have different equipment? I mean, is it?
Well, over the years, there are standards for the most part in audio across the world, and that's gotten better over the years, but it's still not universal. I mean, think about just power.
Yeah, I was
Power
gonna
is
ask.
different everywhere. The outlets are different. Like the way you tie in everything's different all around the world. But audio is pretty similar everywhere you go. You'll have like little things you have to be ready for. Like I have, in my case, I have like a ton of adapters, microphone stands, and our mic clips. They don't work together. Everything. The metric system. You have to. When you're advancing things and you need a 8x8, drum riser or whatever you need, you say 8x8, it's going to be massive. It's not going to be what you want. So you got to be like, oh wait, that's like 2x2, 2x2x1 or whatever, because it's going to be all metric, of course. So just those kind of things. But as far as audio goes, like they might have, well, all the big like audio companies, the speaker companies and everything are pretty much all around the world now, all the big ones anyway. So you're not really running into anything that that's foreign, no pun intended. It's all stuff you've either seen, been on before, or heard. But then you get some places like in China, it's notorious for like, knockoffs of, they'll have the logo and everything on the box and it looks just like it, but you realize it's not the same. It's a copy that's not what you thought it was. And so you'll run into stuff like that.
What's some
I
of
think-
your favorite places you've ever gone tours? Like, what are some of the highlights that you would say, wow, this is pretty amazing?
I have a
You ever
lot
done
of
Dayton,
those.
Ohio?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about that actually last week, after or a couple weeks ago, after Shawn asked me about this. I was like trying to remember, because we did the shows in Dayton, and I was trying to remember the name of the bar, the club.
Canal Street?
Yeah, Canal Street.
It's come up a million times.
Yeah. So of course is there. I know. This is what I was trying to remember. It came through before. I want to say it was like some memorial hall or an armory or something there, but I couldn't remember.
I can't either.
That would have been probably 20 years ago. But yeah, I have
what
fond
do you-
memories.
Yeah,
Of Dayton.
back on Dayton, like,
Yeah.
what are your, because, we probably talked about it a million times before you came here, and then you came here, and, like, what did you know about the Dayton music scene from either talking to us or from other sources?
Before talking to you, I guess I didn't know too much, except like just the vague knowledge of like, isn't that where like, I don't know, the Dayton, Cincy, like Afghan Wigs and the Breeders and what Pixies maybe, I don't know, Guided by Voices, I had the pinpoint on the map that this had a lot going on, but I wasn't really aware of all of it until coming up with you guys and learning more and seeing that and having some nights out. I specifically remember going a couple times to like a dive bar that had like a great jukebox, and that seemed to be where everyone hung out. I don't remember the name.
Southern Belle.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
it's like right next door, or at one point wasn't it? Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a memory of that, but
Brainiac was a band,
Yeah, Brainiac. That's right.
All the time.
Yeah, Brainiac. I remember they came through Nashville and needed a place to stay, and we let them crash with us. But then it wasn't even like the connection. We were talking, and then that connection was made, and they were like, "No way," that kind of thing. So, and that was like right before I started with Relient K. That was there was a week or two stretch where a lot of interesting things coalesced with that. I ran into those guys at a used music instrument store in Nashville, and they were really young. They were like, "Yeah, we're in a band. We're signed. We have a record. We need a sound guy." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, okay," But I didn't think they were serious. They were just excited, And then next thing I know, Tim Eddings, who managed Morella's Forest for a minute, he was managing them at the time because they were from Canton, Ohio. And they're like, "Yeah, our manager will call you. I think he knows you. I think you know him, Tim Eddings." And he called me, and I was like, "What is going on? This is crazy." So there's a lot of like serendipitous moments like that happen.
Yeah.
It's really interesting how that works. I mean, even just the way you guys, I still think it's kind of surprising that you tracked me down to begin with. And I don't exactly know. I know you called my parents' house.
Wow.
Or someone did. And I wasn't living there at the time, but maybe through my brother or something, like you did track me down, probably through Derek, the promoter. And
yeah, I think that's how we got your number, was through Dabdon, booking.
Oh, Dabdon, yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, "Here's this guy." And we just kind of went down the line. Yeah, that's so interesting.
Well, let's go back though, because we got onto like a little Dayton tangent before you
did.
really talked about any other
like your big
places that you enjoyed.
Yeah, the places that.
I was saying I have a lot. I think, I had always heard stories of touring in Japan. That absolutely blew me away.
Really?
Because everything is so meticulously done. Like they, in advance you do the advance. You like schedule everything. You talk through all the equipment, all the gear, everything you need. They go above and beyond to make sure everything is, they're like, "We got exactly what you want, but we have some other stuff too, just in case this isn't good. Here's this guitar, you might, in case you don't like it, here's another one, that's a little different, but so there's a very, very meticulous. You do a festival there, and they want to have a meeting the night before. You sit down and like I have like paperwork that we sat down, went through the input list, the stage plot, and then all their writing, like the Japanese writing on it. Like I saved it because I was like, "This is amazing." So you talk through every little thing, and then when you go from venue to venue, they will take when you're done for the night, they'll go through and they'll take immaculate notes and pictures of everything, and you show up the next day to get started, and everything's set up exactly how you left it.
Wow.
It's all new. It might all be new gear. You're in a different city, but it's exact. You're like, "What? Like, this is amazing." Because the culture, everything is just really, really amazing there. and there's like a lot of interesting oddities that, if a band hasn't played there before, first show they'll play, the crowd is excited, they're loud, and then as soon as the song's done, they're all like cheering, they're clapping, and then they'll just stop. You hear a pin drop. It's just as quiet as possible because they're very, very respectful. They want to hear what you have to say or what's coming next. And then you start playing again, and then it's like, and they'll sing every word, even if they don't know what they're singing. They're just making the syllables. It's amazing. I still love going to Japan, just in general, but also like doing shows there is a treat. I think highlights. I love. I don't know. I love doing Europe and Australia. Like, just seeing all these places, interacting with people, learning things. Because I always try to learn every day. But I think venue wise, like I still have some that are on my bucket list I haven't hit. I think the two left that I definitely is Hollywood Bowl. I still haven't done, and in London, what's the name of it? The round place with the big organ. Albert Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Royal Albert Hall.
Royal Albert Hall. Yeah. So those are two that I haven't made, but I have some that I have that. Like I've done Red Rocks a few times, and that still is amazing. It's iconic, and it doesn't get old. That's like finally getting to do Red Rocks was a big check mark off my bucket list, and being able to go back has just been amazing. And there's a lot of great places, like the Gorge in Washington has a special vibe. And going through and doing a lot of venues that have such history where you feel the history, like the Fillmore in San Francisco or, it's just like the history is heavy there, in a good way, and some venues aren't there anymore. I'd say, the First Avenue in Minneapolis is another one that has it's a vibe because of the history, it's like,
it came from there.
Oh, boy, everything. The whole Minneapolis sound came right through there, and other things. Yeah.
So, I think for me, like experiencing those places, new places, are highlights. Just stopping and thinking like, who's been on this stage that's amazing. And that happens quite often.
What do you want to do? Some rapid?
I got some rapid fire.
Okay, so we want to do a few rapid fire questions.
I got some
great.
One I don't even have written down yet. I just wonder, and you can protect your the artists that you've worked with, if you like. I'm just thinking about the whole sound check thing you were talking about, and like a festival circumstance, that kind of stuff. Like, did the Ramones in the 70s have a sound check as they're about to get up and bring some punk rock? Like, is it always necessary to get stuff set? I mean, I know you went through, which was incredible to hear the whole thing as far as everything being pre-dialed in and digital and all. But how often do you think does it really help, or are you, I assume at this point in your career, you're good enough on the fly to be like, I know exactly what I need to do based on the room, weather, settings, all that kind of stuff?
I mean, there's definitely an element of, for my position, and anyone in the technical side of it, you need to be able to, get it there. Like the first song, a song or two, quick.
Yes.
I mean, like make sure the vocal can be heard, first of all, and then build everything else, that sort of thing. So you need to be able to be quick. And sometimes, the first song or two, third song in, you should have it pretty dialed. So you want to be able to, but for me, it's like I'm always, I'll just keep working. I'll just keep going. Sometimes, learning when to be like, okay, hold on, like don't you might like do too much here. But for the bands, I think it helps with in-ears and everything. Like, you know, everything should be pretty dialed. Like, if you're at a level where you have been able to do rehearsals, you have all the same crew who, whether they're on the right gear or not, they're going to have it dialed in pretty close, so they can, in that way, hit the stage and just go and trust and know that it's going to get there, and they trust that you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But with the tools that we have, we're able to keep it pretty close. Now, back then, I'm not going to say it wasn't as complicated or whatever, but maybe there's a little less moving parts.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
hitting the stage.
Yeah,
But I think I think it's a good idea for everybody to be, and you kind of get this with experience and as you go, but be able to anticipate those things. So like for a band, maybe your first song be instrumental, kind of ramp it up, kind of give everyone a little bit of breathing room, like, maybe have your intro build, and so everyone can kind of like work. And if it's a total throw and go where you have no time, that way everyone can kind of get there and then kick in, and it's not going to be like a false start kind of situation or something weird. Everything's working, so you kind of like can talk through those things. I think, I wasn't there back then, but I kind of think that there was probably a little bit of vibe like that, like, and the audiences were probably a little more understanding, like, okay, we're just going to have some feedback guitars and some noise for a little while, like kind of get things ramped up and balanced, and then we're going to kick in, and nowadays people expect it to be more of a production,
polished,
more dialed, more polished. Yeah. And a lot of things are, we don't have to get into the weeds, but like, time coded shows, like where everything is like programmed and, production wise, and that can even go for audio too. Like you can, there's a lot of cool things you can do to program changes. And, the last Tame Impala tour, the front of house, he had over 200 cues basically that were programmed to change effects, change sounds, change, so that he, because it was more than one person could do, at any time. Like you can't just grab, 10 things at once. So that's pretty fascinating. Crazy. And then you can have it like, all time coded where it, does the changes for you, and you're balancing and you're doing your job, but it's like you're having assistants do other things, but the technology can do that now. So it's pretty cool.
As someone who's been doing this for a while, I just wondered, do you have like a sweet spot for how many nights a year you would like to be out on the road versus home?
That's a good question. I think doing 100 to 150 shows a year is like
a lot.
Probably good. That's a lot. Like once you're over 100, it's like that's a lot for the year.
Yeah.
I used to do 150 to 200 shows some years, and then other years, 50 to 100. But it depends on the type. If it's like international or just flying and stuff. For me, and I think just as general rule, I think a lot of bands, a lot of artists kind of find this, kind of trying to find a sweet spot of like, we'll do this many shows a week, maybe not more than 5 a week, 4 or 5 a week. 3 weeks on, 2 weeks off, something like that, or 2 weeks, then 2 weeks, to try to like balance everything. Or, some are like, we're going to do 2 months straight, take 4 months off, another 2 months, that kind of thing. So everyone's a little different than that. For me, I like the, 2 or 3 weeks on, or 3 weeks on, a week or 2 off, 3 weeks, kind of like breaking it up like that, where you have time for like that work-life balance, because that's the tough part.
I have a question about work-life balance.
Yeah, you go ahead. Follow up on that.
Because Dan and I were actually, go ahead, you should ask it, because we were talking about this.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay. I'll ask then.
Sorry.
So, but Dan and I were talking about this interview on Monday. We were like, well, especially if you're doing 150, 200 shows, it's like you're gone a lot. And I know I've asked you this question when we've hung out in Denver before. Like, how is that work-life balance when you're touring that much? That's a lot of shows.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I think that, I mean, for bands that are like really on the up and up, they're doing, you know, they're putting in the time, you know, once you can kind of, you know, it's your tours and you're headlining, you're doing, you know, you can kind of call the shots a little more, and you know, there's more demand, there's better pay and all that. You don't have to like grind as hard. But for someone like me, if I'm not full time with an artist, like, then I'm trying to fill the schedule. You know, I might do one tour, come home a few days later, go back out for a week. You know, it's like, and knowing that's the tough part. It's like, if it's, I'm kind of at the point where I'm not like trying to do every little thing that comes my way, but at the same time trying to fill my schedule enough to pay the bills, of course. I think it's not always easy, the work-life thing, because for me, I get very focused on the task at hand and what I'm doing. So daily, I have to remember, like, you know what, I have to take care of life too. Like, you know, gotta remember to eat, and take care of myself physically. I gotta remember to pay bills, yeah, and remember to take time to call and check in and be available. I don't have children, but I don't know if I would want to be on the road nearly as much if I had children. I feel like I would miss everything. Yeah. But not to say that it's the same. You know, being married too. It's, you know, it's busy. She understands that. But finding the balance of like, I can take a break, or I can take a minute, or just even just communicate that, hey, I'm, you know, I have no time, but I'll call you here, or, you know, we'll chat, whatever, or recovering on a day off, but making sure to build in time for personal life too, communication, you know, spouses, kids, whatever. So that's tough for everyone on the road.
Oh, I bet. And your wife, if I remember, your wife went with you some a little bit in Europe, didn't she?
Yeah, she's been able to come out a lot. She went to Australia and Europe, Japan. Amazing. She's been in a lot of places in the U.S. And it's worked out quite a bit, quite well, because, you know, with my schedule, you know, maybe I'm ending in Europe and we're going to have a week or two off, and we'll kind of build a vacation around it. You know, I'm already over there, so we only have to pay for her flight, or I'll use miles if I've accumulated enough on whatever airline. And then if she comes out at the end of the tour, like, maybe hotel's already paid for, and then we do our own thing for a week, and then so we're only paying for, you know, our transportation, lodging, and her flight, because I'm paid for it, awesome. Which is amazing. So we've been able to build a lot of vacations that way. And early on, we tried to kind of live by that, like, this rule of, and it hasn't always worked and been successful, but and I've, you know, there's been times where I didn't try to, you know, spend, how do I say this? Remember to try to make this work, but we kind of tried to always have a rule that if I'm going to be gone for more than 2 or 3 weeks at a time, like every 2 or 3 weeks, we need to find a way that either I get home or she comes out, so that we can see each other. And I feel like, and I've seen that across the board, people, they'll, with their families, if it's over it's a 2 or 3 week kind of, like, almost for everyone across the board, it seems that that's the time where the stresses build and things happen. So it's like, it's just a good rule of thumb to kind of try to do. And because that, you know, we've been able to, like, you know, okay, well, this tour, look at this schedule, you know, 3 weeks, we're going to be on the West Coast, so, you come out to California for a few days, whatever, for days off. If it makes sense that I come home for a couple days if we have the time, or she comes out. If we're on the East Coast, she'll generally come to every show in New York, Philly, whatever, that sort of thing. So we try to look at the schedule and try to make it work, make the time, and take the time. And we've found that that's really important, because when we haven't, life gets in the way, we haven't made that work. That's when it gets even more challenging.
Sure.
So that's been something that's really helped us. Because, phone, FaceTime, whatever is one thing, but, actually spending the time kind of, it doesn't, yeah. So, so that's kind of like what we've done, yeah.
It's good. Sounds like learned experience.
Thank you for that insight.
Yes.
I had just just two more
Two
really.
more
One to
questions.
follow up to this, because you weigh sort of what your schedule is and what it could be. You get offers and don't take everything. Are there any tour misses or regrets that you were invited to be on that you really wish you would have said yes?
Oh, man.
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a great question. I wonder if there's times where I've kind of blocked it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh well, I'm not going to think about that, because that would have been awesome.
Right.
There's been times where I just couldn't make something work, and the person who was able to went on, for a long career with, whoever. I had I had someone call me. I was working with MUTEMATH at the time, and a production manager. He was like, "Hey, I was at a couple shows in LA. I like what you were doing. I need someone for this guy that's up and coming. He's got like 8 shows in August, and then we got a supporting Coldplay for September in Europe, and love to bring you in." And I was like, and my schedule almost lined up completely, except for the last week or two, and it was like an all or nothing. Like, well, we need someone. I was like, I can't do it, because I was going back out with MUTEMATH, and it was Frank Ocean. So that would have been.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah. So that one, I was like, that would have been 8 shows and then a big support slot with Coldplay, and then who knows what would happen from there. But then, you think about it, and then I wouldn't have had the next, 4 years with MUTEMATH or something.
Right.
Or would I have been able to balance that? Who knows?
Yeah. You just.
I
I didn't know they
so
even opened
there's
up
things
for
like that. Yeah. What's
Awesome.
that?
I didn't know he opened up for Coldplay. That's crazy.
So that last question.
Well,
Yeah,
that
go
that
ahead,
actually
go ahead.
jogged something in my memory. I do think that he canceled that,
Oh.
or it was a Europe run, and he might have only done something. But there's something in my memory that was like, oh well, I think he didn't even do the whole tour or something. I don't remember, but I think he took time, and then came back the next year harder. So it probably wouldn't have been a long-term thing anyway. I don't know, but stuff like that, that's happened. But it's usually just been because I haven't been available to take something on.
Yeah.
The last thing I have, and then these guys can fill in any other gaps. Being on all these tours, playing at big festivals, I'm sure you're interacting with. You're already an engineer for some pretty big bands, but you probably rub shoulders with some pretty big artists. Is there anyone who you've had a chance to meet that you were absolutely starstruck by?
As far as the engineers or the artists or just in general?
Any above?
Anyone?
Yeah, any of them. Yeah.
Oh,
Other than Shawn Johnson.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's where it's all started. Yeah. No. No. I definitely have. There's some engineers sometimes I'll be at a festival and I'm like, I'm gonna hang out because I love what this engineer does. Front of house.
Are they
this
generally
guy
cool
Mark.
with you just kind of hanging out and
Yeah,
observing?
yeah,
You tell
generally.
them who you are, hey, I'm Scott. I'm
Yeah.
just here, whatever.
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, sure, hang out, watch, look over my shoulder. I don't care. I'm the same way. I had people generous towards me
Yeah.
when I was learning and young. that sometimes it's just like, yeah, stand over here, you can hang out, watch. But then others were like, yeah, have any questions, let me know. Like, I'll try to answer, you know. So that's pretty cool and generous. I think two front of house engineers that I over the years have really aspired to is this guy Mark. He does mainly Muse, and his mixes are insane. I've been able to see a few of his shows, and then the guy with Tame Impala is just fantastic. So and I've been able to luckily like kind of shadow that a couple times and just kind of try to glean as much as possible. I think I generally don't get starstruck, and a lot of times I don't even recognize people. People are like, "Oh yeah, you were talking to so and so," and I'm like, "Really? I didn't know who that. I didn't realize that was who that was." But I think the one time that I did, it hit me pretty hard when I was walking away. Was oh man, my brain. Robert Plant. Like,
Oh my
I met him once. I was working for a group called the Milk Carton Kids, and they were doing a few charity shows. Like we had just finished a tour, and then they had like a week of shows. It was a charity thing. And it was a bunch. It was kind of a star-studded thing, and they were jumping on it. So I wasn't needed. They had all their own people, and but they had a show in Philly, so we went, and I live a little less than 2 hours from Philly. We went to go just hang out, visit, and we were going to Leah and I, my wife. We were going to Philly. We kind of made a big day of it, and then we were just going to go say hi and hang out, not expecting to meet anyone. We thought we were just going to hang out with, the guys I work with, and because it was just a duo, these two guys. Well, they were all on a bus together. All the, it was like the band bus, So we're sitting there talking, and then it's like, wait, that's so and so. That's so. And then the Robert Plant walks on. I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And he was so nice, so generous. And I was just at first, I was like, yeah, cool, nice to meet you. And like they introduced me what I do, and he was like, and with them I was tour managing and running sound. Okay. And he was like, oh, I need a guy like that can do it all. And I was like, yes, please, yes.
Yeah, right. Here's my number.
And Leah was with me, and she was like, he was so nice. We walked away from that, and it just hit me like, that was Robert Plant. That's amazing. That was really cool. So awesome. That was a moment that I can definitely pick out as like a starstruck moment, kind of. Not in the moment, but right after, I was just like, wow, that was really cool. Just legendary, But usually it's like, everyone, there's usually people are very cool, very laid back. There's camaraderie there. Everyone's kind of doing the same thing. So you may be like hanging out talking, but I don't usually see it as that, And I think generally most, not all, but most artists are going to be, kind of the, we're not above it. We're all working hard here, and we're all,
You're all on tour.
Yeah, exactly. So they get it, and as long as you're not, weird or whatever about it. But yeah, there's definitely cool moments that happen. I had just an anecdote I just thought about. Last year, I was with Sophie Tucker. We were doing. It was kind of right before the election. It was a last minute election rally for Kamala. In the arena, one of the arenas, MGM Arena in Vegas, and Christina Aguilera was on it, and I hung out with her front of house, and I mean, technically, it's supposed to be no one's in the room for sound check and all that, but he let me hang out. He was talking to me, like he was like the third engineer that year.
Oh, geez.
Some mostly from logistic reasons, not anything untoward or weird. But he was just like, yeah, I jumped in because he was new on the job. He was like, I jumped into this, and I don't have to. It's all her. Like, he showed me like I'm just using this compressor, and this just to kind of like, sweeten it. But like I just let her breathe, and that's the thing. You don't want to you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it, you know. So that was kind of a really eye-opening, because like, here's someone who like, I don't know, I was blown away by how powerful her voice was, and how controlled and how good. And just seeing, and also seeing it from that perspective, like, oh, okay, this isn't, because when I was in the arena, I was like, I wonder what's the processing he has on this, because it sounds incredible. And I go back there, and he's like, yeah, nothing. It's just this.
Wow.
I just have this compressor to tame it a little bit, and this EQ to sweeten it, and that's it. And I'm like, wow,
That's crazy.
you know. So moments like that are really, really fun, you know.
Special.
That is.
Special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Special.
Every time Genie in a Bottle comes on, we have to get Dan to stop dancing. He just won't.
Oh,
Shirt starts riding up, and you're like, come on, buddy.
it's Daisy.
There it
They
is.
Pop out somewhere.
Daisy Dukes.
Right.
I always
Well,
got them
it's the 90s.
somewhere, so. I have my last question is, can you, and I guess you just answered it really, but can you go into a situation and not be not critical but technical? Can you go in and just enjoy the music,
Yeah,
or are
Going to a
you?
Yeah.
concert.
Yeah.
Like to a concert.
That's I love that question, because I think about this often. There's definitely been times where I have had a hard time just like letting go and not being critical,
Mhm.
or not even critical, just being able to just like take the engineer's cap off, basically. Like,
Right.
You're
where,
thinking
you know, I'm going to hear every little thing. Like,
Yes.
I'm just, my brain is zoning into, you know, oh, I hear a problem, or I hear something like, oh, are they going to fix it? Well, they haven't fixed it yet. What's going on?
There's a slight
or-
feedback. Oh, it's
Yeah.
Probably pull
Or
something
like-
back a little.
Yeah. Or, you know, I think that that snare drum's hitting that mic. What's going on? You know.
Oh, geez.
But or just like tonally and things like that. It's like just noticing every little thing that happens.
Mhm.
You know, like
Yeah.
show starts, and you know, I can hear every little tweak that they're making. Not everything, but like I was like, okay, they got that. They you know, and it's like just like you said, like cutting that loose and just enjoying the moment, the music. I think I've
Mhm.
learned how to do that more, and it definitely helps. I don't know. There's pros and cons to that, because when I notice every little thing, I can really zone in and appreciate what it is when it's really good, and know like, wow, I don't know how they're doing this right now, but it's amazing.
Mhm.
Or, oh, I know what they did there, and I'm going to try to do that too. You know, and that's like when I've seen Radiohead. That's generally how I feel. It's like I'm enjoying it. I love, you know, if it's someone I really want to see and love, I can like separate. I can just be a fan.
Mhm.
But if I'm just, you know, hey, I'm going to check this band out, I've never seen them before, like I might be a little more critical. Not trying to be, but just,
Right.
you know,
Sure.
I'm thinking of, especially if it's like maybe a band, I'm seeing a band, they don't have an engineer, and I know like the house guy's struggling, and I just want to jump in there and help, you know. But and I, you know, and I have a hard time like seeing shows from other perspectives. Like I want to be right there where the mixer is, you know. I want to know, like, because then I know what it sounds like to them, and I'm like, okay, well, you know. But that's experience. It gives perspective. I mean, it's if I go to a show and I'm not noticing things and I'm just enjoying it, then I know it's good. You know,
Yeah.
I know that it's fantastic. You know, I think there's been several, but the last time I saw Sigur Rós was that way, and that was, I had kind of nosebleed in this beautiful theater in Chicago. Last minute, I wasn't going to have the day off, but we had a show had to be rescheduled, and I had the night off, so I was able to go, and I was at the very top of the, you know, third, fourth balcony up or whatever, but it was amazing. It sounded incredible, even in that space, you know.
Yeah.
And I went down and tried to talk to their engineer, but the language barrier was a little tough.
Oh.
But he was really nice. And I thought
Was
it
the
sounded
engineer speaking? I I don't even know, they speak Icelandic, or was he?
Yeah.
Were they speaking
Yeah.
that made up language?
The made up language. I wonder if they do actually. No, he was. I'm pretty sure it was Icelandic.
Okay.
Unless he was from somewhere else, but very thick accent, so I couldn't really tell. But that wasn't the last time I saw him. I saw him again in Belgium at a festival that we were at, and that was incredible too. I almost got to see them in August when I was in Europe. I didn't know about it, but their whole European tour with the symphony orchestras were all sold out except for the one in Prague, and I was in Prague, and I was like, it was in 5 days, and I'm like, I want to come back, but I couldn't make it work.
Oh, man. Crazy.
But yeah, they're up there as far as, live shows for me, like the production of it, the sound. It's just everything is immaculate.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well,
We're
we want to say thank you
yeah.
for
my
joining
gosh.
us today and giving us this
Yeah,
unique
absolutely.
perspective. And
My pleasure.
This
thank
has
you
been
so
amazing.
much. It's
Yeah.
been,
Enjoyed all
I've
of
learned
it.
a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I mean, I feel like I could go on and on, but
I think there's more. I think there's more questions in the hopper,
Yeah.
and so we'll just
Oh, yeah.
We may
hopefully,
have to have you back on.
yeah, sometime in the future,
Yeah.
catch you in between tours. We didn't even really get into the granular stuff about different tours, and I've got other questions about size venues and things like that. So hopefully,
Well,
we'll
maybe
catch you in
have you
a.
back
Yeah.
and talk about that.
Yeah.
You're out. You just got home with Bob Moses, right? You were out with Bob Moses, that
Yeah,
electronic
yeah.
band. Cool band. I was actually
Yeah,
looking through their stuff. They're actually a band. I thought it was just
Yeah.
2 guys, but it's a full.
it is. It is 2 guys, but they do full band shows. The last run of shows was like just the 2 of them doing their
Oh,
DJ
okay.
thing. So they call it their club set, and there's still guitar and vocal, and set all that up, and but the full band, they do a full band show too.
Yeah.
You know,
I saw
That's
that.
awesome.
yeah, and yeah, the new record's great.
Awesome.
They're really cool. So they're doing that next year. Hoping there's a position for me with that on the next year, but
Awesome.
who knows? I don't know. We'll see what happens, but yeah, it's always an adventure. That's for sure.
Well, thanks, Scotty.
Yeah. And if you're
Yeah.
ever through town, we would love to.
Yeah, hit us up if you're in the
Hit
Dayton
us
area.
up.
Dayton, Cincinnati.
Yeah, we'll
whatever.
do. I haven't been through there in a minute. I might have to just do that. Take you
There
up
you
on
go.
that because
That'd be awesome.
it's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott, thank
Well,
you
thanks,
so much
Scott.
for your
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Scott Canny, you've been a great guest and a wealth of knowledge. We're thankful for this long-term connection with you and Shawn
Yeah,
and Morella.
me too.
Yeah.
We need some more stories about Shawn.
We need
next
way
time.
more stories about Shawn and Nate.
Yeah, I was just this whole week I was reminiscing, thinking of
Oh,
of
no.
things, but yeah, I'm really
Sid
grateful
is
that
MIA.
we connected. Yeah, years and years ago.
That's amazing.
It's definitely if I were to plot on the lifeline or whatever, there's definitely a pin there for those years, and I'm so glad we met, and then we've been able to
Stay in touch.
connect again and stay in touch and stuff. This is great, and it's very nice to meet both of you too.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, nice
That's awesome.
meeting you.
Yeah.
I can't
Thanks,
wait to have a
Scotty.
beer together.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. If you
He's
just stay
absolutely.
around here for just a
Sounds
second
good.
so we can make sure we get the
One second.
audio.